Olá pessoal, meu nome é Luís Zaccaro e eu estou in situ em Chicago no AUA 2023. E aqui nós estamos com o Dr. Saad. O Dr. Fred já é conhecido de todos os brasileiros, um expoente na uro-oncologia mundial, e nós vamos falar um pouquinho aqui sobre o estudo que ele acabou de apresentar aqui na sessão de pôsteres. Thank you for your attention with us, Dr. Fred. Would you like to invite you to explain something about your paper that you present now? Can you talk about the PSA response in Propel study and the importance to test BRCA mutation in the setting of the disease?
Absolutely. So thanks for the opportunity to discuss. So I think everybody's aware of the Propel study that looked at patients with first-line mCRPC getting abiraterone alone, which is the standard of care, compared to abiraterone plus olaparib in unselected patients, so all comers. And we found that in the all-comer population, we significantly delayed radiographic progression, and we improved overall survival by over 7 months, which is the biggest improvement so far. The study was not powered for survival, so it's not perfectly statistically significant, but clinically significant. What we looked at here in this analysis was, does this combination make a difference in terms of PSA? And what we saw is that patients who get the combination had better PSA response. So the patients who had a PSA response was about 70% with abiraterone alone, and it went up to about 80% in the all population. And when we look at patients with BRCA mutations, there was a 35% increase in PSA response, which is tremendous. We've never seen that. And even patients without BRCA mutations, we saw about an 8% improvement in PSA response. But what's very interesting is that looking at PSA progression, which is the time that patients start developing resistance, we see that we significantly delayed PSA progression in patients getting the combination compared to abiraterone alone. And it was about 10-month delay in progression. And we saw about a 9-month delay in non-BRCA mutated patients, which was very significant. But in BRCA mutation patients, we had a 35-month improvement in time to PSA progression, which really tells us that patients across the board can benefit in terms of delaying resistance to first-line treatment of mCRPC, but especially as expected, but more than what we expected in the BRCA mutated patients by almost 3 years delaying PSA progression, which is outstanding that we can do something so important for those patients.
Okay. Another question. Do you see some difference in terms of efficacy in different PARP inhibitors?
Yeah, so we haven't seen this kind of analysis in terms of PSA, time to progression with the other PARP inhibitors, but we have looked at 2 other PARP inhibitors that have reported in the first-line mCRPC setting. So talazoparib has shown very similar efficacy results, which is very reassuring. We have another study that shows that patients with and without mutations have a benefit in terms of rPFS in the same range as what we saw in Propel. So this is helping to confirm that we can do better even in patients without a BRCA mutation. With niraparib, they did not show a difference in patients that did not have a BRCA mutation, so that combination didn't seem to be efficacious in patients without a BRCA mutation. But patients with a BRCA mutation, the niraparib looks to be effective with a hazard ratio of about 0.55. So it's hard to compare if it's less effective than olaparib combination, which had a hazard ratio in the range of 0.23 for rPFS. So it's hard to compare, but it looks like there might be a difference in efficacy between PARP inhibitors, but there's definitely at least a difference in terms of adverse event profiles, where there was more anemia with niraparib and talazoparib. So when we make a decision to treat, we're looking at efficacy, we're looking at tolerability, we're looking at quality of life. So all of those things together, I think, help us to decide what's most appropriate for that patient who's in front of us in the clinic.
Thank you, Dr. Saad. I hope to see you soon in Brazil.
Yes, I look forward put to it. Always a pleasure in Brazil.
Obrigado, pessoal.